First up, I'll come up with the Field X description. We have a field which is almost 18 kilometers squared in surface area, and the oil field is located in the UK sector of the North Sea. Basically, there's a couple of geological events that will be happening on the structure, which will be discussed in the later slides. For example, the erosion, possible faulting, lifting of the structure, due to which we can see that there are steeply dipping flanks. The overall limit depth of the structure will be 9,900 to 11,500 feet. The depositional environment, whatever has been evaluated till now, we've come up with the result of a shallow marine depositional environment. The reservoir possibly has sandstones with some clay strata showing up in them. And the sand body is from a Jurassic period. There will be two different sealing deposits that will be showing up, which I will shortly discuss. And there is a possible existence of faults that will be discussed in this entire presentation. The structural configuration. As you can see from the diagram over here, there's a couple of faults, possible faults and fault bodies that might occur in the northern part. There's the western flank dips steeper, right, than the northern and eastern flanks. The shape of the structure map, it indicates regions of stress, which you can see from the anomalous shape of the structure, that there's quite possible faulting, uplifting, a few tectonic events that might be happening here. This image over here, right, it shows a good gauge of thickness of sand bodies that are showing up. So, can she see the mouse?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. So, for example, over here you can see that this is the top of the structure in the middle, and over there we can see that the thinnest thickness of the sand body is quite near the top of the structure. Over here we can see cross sections, different cross sections. The direction in which they are going is from north to south for the left picture, the picture on the left, which would be this picture over here. And we can also see the wells, the exploration wells that were used, the placement of those wells. Over here there's an interesting geological event that's happening, is that there's quite possible erosion that's happening, as you can see, and also towards the north we can see that there's thicker sand bodies that are arising. Again, now on the picture on the right, over here we can see the well placement, and we can see that towards the top the sand body is decreasing in thickness. And again, there seems to be a possible event of erosion, which I'll discuss in the upcoming picture. The core analysis. Well, looking at the projector over here, it seems that the words are quite unclear, although they were okay on the presentation that we were running. So I'll just summarize this core analysis over here. Basically, the cores you can see were given to us, and then we evaluated them, and also we deduced the depositional environment. How did we do that? For example, box 9 and box 8, the first two boxes that are detailed over here, they showed signs of biological matter, like signs of burrows, signs of bioturbation. So that seemed to be going on there. That's a characteristic which is usually that usually appears in a shallow marine depositional environment. Can you guys see the mouse? The mouse
is off the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, bottom left, I think.
Anyhow, box 7 and box 6 and box 5, they give indications of possible presence of oil. So there is a signification of oil-stained core slabs that were obtained, and at those particular depths, at depths of around 10,270 to 10,300 somewhere, so we can see that oil shows up. Also, there was a wispy mudstone laminate that showed up. Basically, it's a low energy depositional environment, which is again a characteristic of a shallow marine depositional environment. How the mouse is not working. So the correlation panel. This correlation panel here is a very good indicator of what's happening. So basically, you can see from wells X4, 6, 1, and 2 that there's possible uplifting happening. As you can see that there's a pattern. So first up was the shale, and then there was the Jurassic sand that showed up. In the Jurassic sand, there was a particular event where anhydrite was being deposited, and it can be seen pinching out between X6 and X1. On top of that, it seemed that shale was again deposited after this Jurassic period, but there seems to be an event of erosion that has happened, which has wiped up the shale and which can be read from X4 and X6. So instead of shale again showing up, there is a pre-Cretaceous calcite that seems to be deposited. This was done using the log analysis. The log analysis helped us a lot, and a few other modes of information as well. So the structural history that is deduced from this correlation panel is that first up there was the uplifting of the pre-Jurassic deposition. Basically the gray over here, you can see that it's pre-Jurassic salt. So there was a possible halokinesis that took place. Halokinesis is basically the movement of salt bodies with tide. So there is uplifting happening. Then coming to image B, there is a deposition of our possible reservoir rock, which is the sand body. Then after that, there's further uplifting, which can be seen from image C. And then in image D, there is deposition of shale happening on top of that rock. And then as, if you remember, we discussed in the correlation panel that there was an event of erosion after the shale was deposited. That can be seen in image E. And then in image F, there was another deposition of pre-Cretaceous calcite. And then in image G, there is post-Cretaceous sediment that was deposited. The STOIP estimation. The STOIP estimation was done in 3 different ways. The probabilistic, which you can see, the values, the minimum, most likely, and maximum were taken. The deterministic yielded a value of 995 million barrels, and the stochastic, the result we got from the model, gave us 854 million barrels. The uncertainties, of course, the major uncertainties that we faced in evaluating this particular structure was the reservoir area, the extent of that reservoir area, the reservoir structure itself, just due to because maybe perhaps we had lesser exploration wells to work with in the first place. The sand connectivities. The sand connectivities, how we came about it was that, all right, we reduced the depositional environment. It could have been, there's a lot of possibilities that can go on with sand connectivities, like maybe perhaps sand channels can show up, but we already have said that it's a shallow marine depositional environment. And then there's the possibilities of faults, which will be evaluated upon in the reservoir well test section, for example. And another uncertainty was the thickness of the sand body. We had a few wells that were deviated, so getting the TVT wasn't an easy task to do. But at the end of the day, all it is an estimation. Next up is formation evaluation, Lorenzo.
Is there a microphone over there, or?
No, so just picks it up, it's fine.
Great. So, else it's gone.
I'm good for you.
Yeah. All right. This is a summary of the available data. I will briefly go through and comment on the reliability of them. The most significant input data we got from the core samples. The well test report was not as helpful as anticipated when it came to estimating permeability for the correct zones. Let me just go back for a second. The gamma ray caliper acoustic log, the basic log suits that are expected are found for all wells. Unfortunately, no litho density or micro log is available, so lithology identification is significantly more difficult, which brings me to the next slide. To identify lithology accurately and reliably, we helped ourselves by applying the MN plot, which constructs a function of the sonic transit time, the bulk density, and the neutron porosity. Applying the MN plot to sections of difficult to identify lithology gave us specifically the previously mentioned anhydrite and the calcite.
Next.
No, stay here. No, stay fast. Shows a very clear location of the data points around the anhydrite spot. Not clearly on it, but close enough to deduce that this is an anhydrite. And similarly for the calcite, it is located in between the quartz sandstone and the calcite, but the sonic porosity showed a higher value than the density porosity, bulk density porosity that is. So we are assuming that we might have some effects of secondary porosity, and there's a continuous effect of sulfur showing up in different sand bodies, so we think it is just a shift of a fractured calcite. So no abnormality here. It's a calcite identified cap rock here. Next slide. To confirm the presence of calcite, we ran the mineral identification plot, the MID plot or MID plot. It seems to confirm the presence of a calcite. Next, there's nothing more here. And this is the summary of the findings from the specialized or special plots for the identification of difficult lithologies. We went as far as to differentiate between shale with dolomite, calcite, salt contents, possible secondary porosity, etc. And that resulted in a very detailed differentiation between strata. The most important finding from this is the anhydrite layer that protrudes from X1 all the way to X3, which is the main assumption or the main finding that allows the assumption of the erosion to have taken place in the sequence that was previously described. Next slide. Regarding porosity and permeability, two of the most important parameters in the entire project, the air permeability is available from core samples. This, of course, is going to be the interconnected permeability. The experiment, as far as we understand it from the data that we were given, air is pumped, or the core sample is pressurized and air flows through it without letting the sample break down. That is important. Broken down samples are noted in the report, and that happens